Hi there, it's Reed from Blue Bear Quilts. Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to show you how I made this quilt called Color Vibes, and it's made with QT Fabrics line called Aura. But I have to tell you, I'm sometimes jealous of my quilts. For example, this beauty is going to quilt market and I'm staying home. But let's get started and I will show you how I made this quilt. I'm getting ready to start working on the Color Vibes quilt that uses QT Fabrics' new line of fabric called Aura. Look at these gorgeous colors. There's purples, greens, oranges, reds, yellows, blues, and grays. This is going to be such a gorgeous quilt. The next step, I'm going to cut all of the pieces for the blocks out with AccuQuilt, and I'll show you what they look like once they've all been cut out. So I have my pieces all cut out with my AccuQuilt Go Big cutter, and you can see what a nice job it's done of cutting out all the pieces. And the nice thing about cutting out things like these quarter square triangles with AccuQuilt is that when you put the pieces together like this, you line up the square edge like that, and you line up this edge over here, and you sew a 1/4 inch from there like that, and there's no dog ears. There's nothing to trim off after you're done sewing the pieces together. So that's the beauty of using AccuQuilt to cut out all your pieces. So once I have the pieces all cut out, the next thing I do is lay out the blocks so that they're organized when I'm sewing them together. And there are basically 2 different blocks in this Color Vibe quilt. This is block number 1 and block number 2. Block number 1 is comprised of 2 1/4 square triangles with a larger 1/2 square triangle, and block number 2 is comprised of 4 1/4 square triangles. So it's so easy to sew these pieces together once they've been cut with AccuQuilt. You just flip them over, pieces match up very nicely, and you basically sew a 1/4 inch from that point all the way up there. And those were 1/4 square triangles, so the same thing will apply to these. So I'm going to start sewing them, and I'll show you what the blocks look like as we start to piece them together. So this is what it looks like when the pieces, 2 of the 1/4 square triangles, are sewn together. You can see that it starts right there at that point. See if I can get a little closer. The stitching starts right there at that point and goes at a 1/4 inch along there, and then you just press it towards the color side like that, and then it's going to join up with the next piece like this. So flip that over and sew that together, and when the block is all completed, that's what it looks like. And it's nice and neat on the back, and you'll notice that because there were no dog ears on it, there's nothing that needs to be trimmed up. And here's what the stack of all the blocks, there's 120 of them, here's what they look like when they're all sewn and ready to be put together to make the quilt top. So the next step is to lay the blocks out on a bed or the floor in the order that they go. And you can see I have a bunch of blocks laid out there. Then I've sewn them into pairs, and then I sew the pairs together, and then I sew them in rows, and then I'll sew the rows together. So the reason why it's important to lay everything out like this is that you can kind of get a visual ahead of time and make sure that the quilt is going to look correct the way you want it to, and that you've sewn all of the pieces appropriate. This would be the best time to determine whether the individual blocks have been sewn correctly. So I will sew all of these blocks together into rows and the rows together, and then show you what the completed quilt top looks like. Hi there! I hope you've enjoyed watching me make the Color Vibes quilt featuring QT Fabrics Aura line. If you've liked this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, a like, and subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss future videos. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.